Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to Hands on SAP Dev with Q Macro. That's me, DJ. Episode 69. So this is actually the 70th episode. Not that that's a significant number from a milestone perspective. I guess it's a large number, but it's 70. Is that an interesting number? I'm not sure. So welcome anyway. Thank you for joining. Good morning, Helmut, Chesh, Vincent, Amit. I've got my copy here. By the way, can you see me? Can you just my YouTube studio is not updating, so I can't see what is live right now. So please let me know in the chat, positively or negatively, that you can see me. Can you see me okay? Can you see me okay? Like I say, the good morning, Ronnie. Good morning indeed. I'm going to ramble on until I get some sort of response. Yes, exactly. Because we have started at zero, Amit. Exactly. Chesh, thank you for confirming. Thanks, Gregor. Brilliant. Okay. So I'm not sure what's happening with the live stream studio updating, but anyway, who knows? Thank you very much. Thanks for. I'm not invincible and I'm not invisible either. That's fantastic. So I'm drinking my coffee here out of my wonderful Hands on SAP Dev mug, which is this O-authored 8am edition. I think Phil Cooley, I think you've ordered some swag from. Let me actually just switch. Well, I will switch in a minute. Before I want to show first of all, talking of swag. The last Friday I wasn't streaming because there was a conference, an online conference, Recap, all about CAP. And I'm going to show you the links to the conference website and also where you can watch the replays of all the talks that were all online. Of course, it was an online conference. It was obviously originally scheduled to be an in-person conference. That's not happened, obviously, but the in-person version of the conference will happen later this year, hopefully, when lockdown is relaxed and everything. So watch this space. But in the meantime, you can go and watch the talks from many of the team members internally at SAP, which was brilliant. And there were a few stickers generated for that event. Here we go, Recap. And it's even got the date on. Oh no, sorry, these haven't got the date on. I've got a magnet thing. Magnet sticker, I suppose, with the date on, which is fantastic. So that's a nice memorabilia. But I've got some of these awesome stickers, along with, of course, some normal developers.sap.com stickers. I've got plenty of those, and I've also got some Hands on SAP Dev stickers, of course, courtesy of the awesome Ronnie. So I've got plenty of those to give away. So if you haven't got any stickers, if you fancy any stickers, and if you fancy one of these, I've only got 2 or 3 actually, so I can give at least two away. Hit me up on a direct message somewhere on Twitter, for example, and let me know, and I'll send you one of the recap stickers. The first 2 or 3 people to send me a request on Twitter, direct message, I'll send you one of those, and whatever Hands on SAP Dev Developers SAP.com stickers that you wish for. Hey, yes, thank you, Jess, for noticing a new webcam angle. Sorry. I am trying out a different thing. I've switched back to my, it's a long story, I've switched back to my MacBook Pro, which I'm not particularly happy with, but, for various reasons. Yeah, I can't stream. I've tried streaming from the 4K monitor. Again, only a quarter of it, just like I did when I was using my Chrome OS box, but the MacBook Pro can't cope. So I've got a second monitor now, an old 1080p-ish monitor. I'm running at 720p. And it's sort of at an angle, so I thought I'd put the camera there. A bit of a difference in the background. There's Hilda, the cow, just there, which is fantastic. I love that painting. There we go. Yeah, we're all good. I hope everybody's fine here. I did notice. I think Andrew, you said Friday has been rather pleasant. That's good. So we have a pleasant day ahead of us. Let me switch to the main scene there. So this is the Recap conference website. I'll as I usually do, I'll paste the links in here, and more importantly, if you go to the JSSoft GmbH Twitch page, you can see the recordings of the online stream last week. So check those out. The talks were brilliant from all sorts of people, so I highly recommend those. Talking of online conferences, coming up not this weekend but next weekend at the end of this month basically is the very first SAP online track, organised by many superheroes, including, I think Ronnie is on. Yes, including Ronnie here. By the way, I've not said good morning to everybody. Good morning, Ronnie, as well. Good morning, Robertino. Good morning, Gregor Servus. Yeah, so check this out, saponlinetrack.github.io. There's the link there. And yeah, there's lots of weekly updates. And yeah, this is a brilliant site. It's all sorts of different things. Basically, it's a 24-hour event starting basically, next weekend. And lots of brilliant people presenting. So I'm looking forward to that. I think I've got a couple of things I'm doing there as well. So there we go. That's that. There's, by the way, if you wanted to get the mug with my mug on it or a T-shirt from Alex's site, there it is. The OpenFaz collection site, which is really nice they did. Now, one more thing before we start. Yeah, it's only 8:07, so we've got plenty of time. One more thing before we start. Chesh, I think you mentioned on Wednesday, in the stream on Wednesday, that, because I've mentioned I've got this new calendar, and Chesh, you pointed out correctly that Wednesday's episode wasn't on it, and that's my fault because I've been maintaining another calendar called the HandsOnSAPDev calendar, but now I'm maintaining another calendar called live stream times. And if you go to bit.ly live stream times, I think it's called, yeah, that. Hey Pramod, how are you doing? Oh, what's going on there? Why? Oh yes, it's because I've not signed into this Brave browser. I'm not going to do that now because I need my two-factor authentication physical key. But basically, live stream times will take you to a calendar. This one, there's a link here, the public Google Calendar. That's log in as well. Yeah, that's a new one, basically. That's a new calendar with all sorts of, so you can, with all sorts of different aspects, so you can have an agenda. And what I'm trying to do is put in there my live stream episodes upcoming, and the ones from Max, and the ones from Tom, and the ones from Kevin that I know about. It helps me remember when things are coming up, so maybe it'll help you too. Let me know. Hey, good morning, John. Good morning. Yes, it is like Le Mans. I mean, that's a good comparison. That's a good comparison. It is like Le Mans. Anyway, I think that's all the announcements. So yeah, like I say, it's a day off for me today, but I thought I'd do a Hands-on SAP Dev live stream anyway, because you're such awesome folks. Now, the title of this particular episode is starting to construct a custom task UI. We've been hacking around with within the Web IDE with various aspects of the workflow service on Cloud Foundry, and we've been hacking around with the MTA and building workflow definitions and deploying them and so on. And what we also did was we took the sample onboarding. This was this one here, the sample onboarding application from the file new project from sample application. There it is there somewhere. Yep. Oh, come on, DJ, what are you doing? New. It's because I'm at an angle. I think my mouse is at a funny angle. New project from sample application. That gave us this thing here, which we looked at. And this was a fairly involved workflow definition, onboarding a new person, what equipment do they need, and finding a buddy, and all that sort of thing, with a number of custom task UIs. And we went through that last time. It was 2 weeks ago. It's like ages ago. We went through that to learn generally the sorts of things we have to do. So now we're going to build out the simplest thing that could possibly work from a UI perspective. Hey MG, hi to you, and welcome. So what I did, just to save a bit of time, because I know I talk a lot, and I want to sort of get on with this and finish this next Friday. So I only want to take 2 episodes to do this. I want to build a custom task UI with you, and today I intend to sort of hack around in Chrome Developer Tools, doing the things that we're supposed to be doing and sort of learning what they are, and then starting to commit that to code in files. What I've done in preparation is I've created a new project called Test, because I'm not very adventurous in names. In that project, I've got effectively 2 things. I've got a workflow module, as in, I said test new workflow module, okay, and through that I created this workflow module here. Within that workflow module, I've just got a single workflow definition called workflow definition. I'm going to try and keep these as simple as possible. Everybody remember the band, almost post-punk, but no, the punk band Public Image Limited, and they had this thing where they put out an album and they just called it album, and they put out a single, they just called it single. This was in the 70s. I remember it was pretty cool, pretty sort of out there. Anybody remember that? I don't know. Anyway. Here's a workflow definition. It starts, and I've also defined for it. Oh no, I didn't. I didn't define any sample content. I did in the previous iteration of this. I've just defined a user task, and I've called it user task 1. I've given it the priority medium. I've given it the subject test. I've assigned it basically to me, to this ID that I'm using here. And by the way, I'm using this Brave browser because I've switched back to the Mac, and it's a corporate machine. There's all sorts of certificate shenanigans going on, which means that I can't properly log out of my true identity. So I've got to use a different browser that the certificates aren't really connected to. So I've just installed Brave for this. That's the only reason I'm using Brave. But it's great because it's also Chrome based, right? So all the wonderful Chrome developer tools are still available to us. Yes, so Gregor, good question. I was wondering that actually. So Gregor is asking Ronnie and co, will there be a SAP Online Track calendar directly visible on the homepage? I would love to see that as well. So if that's coming, great. So anyway, we've got this user task. All user tasks that are assigned to me will come in with a subject test. Okay, fine. And the user interface is an SAP UI5 component, right? So it's basically, so we got a pointer to what we need to create, and I've created like a skeleton version of that, nothing to do with any custom task UI processing at all, by going into the test project, right-clicking, new HTML5 module, as generic as that, and I picked SAP UI5, HTML5 module, and I picked basically SAP UI5 application. Okay, let's cancel that. And I got this HTML5 module, which is a really, really simple thing with a web app in there. And in there, there's a view with a view 1, because that's the default name. And it's got basically, a page within an app, within a shell. And it's got a title, which is internationalized. I think the title is basically just title. Yeah, all very Public Image Limited. And so on. So it's nothing to do specifically with a task UI. It's got a component, obviously, as well. So this component is literally just like the simplest thing that could possibly work. But basically, we've got a UI5 component that will be loaded into the My Inbox detail pane when a workflow instance from this definition is created, right? So let's have a look at that again. So there's the QMacro HTML5 module, okay? And I selected it by saying, okay, well, select the project. There it is. Test HTML5 module, which is there. Test HTML, where is it? HTML5 module, there, application name, and it generates an application name, which is basically the namespace and the actual module name squashed together with no commas or anything or spaces, right? And SAP UI5 component path, of course, it's web app, that's by default, and so on. So there we go. So I've deployed that as well. Okay, I had a bit of a weird thing yesterday. I don't know why, but I got this. I kept getting an HTTP 500 error when I was going into my workflow inbox, my inbox, and it was trying to load this custom UI5 component, and it was giving me 500. I looked at the workflow tiles app router, and it was basically saying that the app itself needs to have an XSApp.json file. I need to look into that a bit more, because normally the XSApp.json sits here outside of the web app folder, okay, there, which is the right place for it, where the Neo app used to be as well, right? So the Neo app is not relevant for this because it works on Cloud Foundry. So I'm going to look into that. Anyway, what I've also done, I modified, and this is something we can play around with as well. I modified the definition in the UI5 deployer. Where is it? Test UI deployer here, package.json. Sorry, not in the UI5 deployer. In the where is it? In the package.json of our HTML5 module, I've modified the build script, which uses the wonderful UI5 command line interface. So it doesn't generate the component preload. Okay, it just uses this dev flag here, or dev sort of build destination or build target, let's call it, just to say, just do the simplest thing that could possibly work. Okay, and so when you build it, it really just copies the stuff into the UI5 deployer, and then that's that. Okay, so that's what we've got there. Yeah, Brave is great. Stops a lot of the creepy internet tracking. 54 trackers blocked on YouTube currently. Oh my goodness me. Funnily enough, I've just been playing around with a Raspberry Pi Zero Wi-Fi version, which I've bought and installed, and I'm running Pi-hole on it. And it's brilliant. It just works out of the box. It's brilliant. Anyway, enough of that. It's already 8:15. So that's what I've set up, and we've got that in here, and there's the workflow definition. So what I thought we'd do, there we go, and I just deployed it again this morning. I deployed it last night, but I deployed it again this morning, just make sure everything's okay. And there's that onboard one, so we're not going to play around with that one. So what we'll do, if that's okay with you, and we'll do it together, is we'll follow this documentation here, which is pretty good. I found this sort of late last night, right? There's the documentation, MCA project containing workflow module and custom task UI using HTML5 module, right? Terrible title, but really useful documentation. And what we'll be doing is following these steps here, okay? Just so that we don't miss anything out, just so we can also relate what we see in this documentation to what we looked at in the custom task UI from the onboarding last time. And we'll just do it bit by bit, okay? But first of all, why don't we create a new instance? Yes, exactly. Blocking, the whole sort of idea of the blacklist and the whitelist, I'm still getting used to. Yeah. By the way, I did go to the SAP Online Track site in the Brave just now, and I noticed that it blocked a couple of things. But anyway, that's another story. Doesn't matter what the data is here. We don't have a custom task UI that is actually useful yet. So let's just start new instance, right? Workflow instance started. Show instance. There it is. Workflow definition. We've just created it. It's 819. Perfect. And it's an instance of that workflow definition. And the status right now is that task test, which is the title. Remember, test is this thing in the workflow definition here. Details there. That's now available. Okay. So, and the instance ID of the task. Okay, the task instance is 8AC. If we look at the workflow information here, we see the instance ID of the workflow instance. Let's go slowly. We've got the workflow definition, and the ID of the definition is actually a text workflow definition. We've created an instance of that definition, and the ID of the instance is 8A96. I'll just use the first four characters here, 8A96. But then related to this is a task, and the ID of the task instance is 8ACB. So let's not mix those up. Okay, fine. So we can show the task as well, and that will also sort of hopefully explain that a little bit more. There are the three identifiers. We've got the workflow definition identifier, we've got the instance of the workflow definition, and we got the instance of this task. Okay, that's why obviously it's not highlighted. We can't click to there because we already are there. Okay, the task is of priority medium, the status is ready. Okay, so now if we go back to here, we will see that we've now got one task in my inbox, okay, which is very exciting. Now, what do we see first of all in the right hand side? What we don't see is a sort of generic task that comes sort of as default with the My Inbox app. Okay, if you've seen it before, you've seen it on previous episodes as well. There's an icon taskbar with sort of these circular icons when it hasn't got any other way of displaying the task detail. Now, there's no detail in task here, but it's because we're using this HTML5 module, which basically has nothing, right? It's just, a page with a title. There we go, page title. And the title, if we remember, was title with a capital T. I'm not sure why it's not displaying there, but anyway, we've got that there, user task 1, okay. So why don't we have a look at what's behind this? So let's hit F12 and bring up. There it is. There's title. Yeah, I don't know why I didn't display it before. So there's that title there, right? Is exactly that internationalized text there. Okay, and the layout, as to remind ourselves, inside a shell we've got an app, and the app has got a single page in the pages aggregation, and the page has got this title, and that's it. It's got no content. So that is what we're seeing here. Notice also that there's no buttons on the bottom to say confirm or reject or approve or whatever. Okay, so let's what's going on here? So let's have a look at what we can do and what we've got. Let's move this across here. By the way, let me know, please say something in the chat. Let me know whether the layout of this is okay, and you can see this quite. As you can see, I've got a slightly different layout on the live stream as well, because this monitor is actually not 720p. It's not 1280 by 720. It's 1280 by 800, which means that I didn't want to squash it or stretch it to fit this 720p output. I'm pointing over there to my light streaming. So that's why it looks a bit weird, and I've got a bit of the background, my sort of Heartset Pike background in the background. So what I've got is in the source. Let's go to the sources. Let's put this drawer. Let's remove the drawer. In the sources here, we can see that we've got the QMacro HTML5 module already loaded. Of course, it's already loaded because it's there, right? And there is the component JS, which is what we saw. Let's just get rid of some of this nonsense here. Let's get rid of that. So this thing here, this component is this component here. And we can see also there's, any other JavaScript in that module is also available here, as well as the CSS. So there's the controller, view1 controller, which does nothing basically. And that is this thing here, does nothing. There's the component. There we go. So we're going to start basically not from a blank slate, but we're going to start from the simplest thing that could possibly work. Okay. So yes, Chesh, that is so true. I never know what to do with the space sort of there. Should I stretch the screen to full screen? Would that be better? What should I put there? I did put a title there last night. I was playing around last night, and I thought, well, the title looks rubbish, and also I'm going to have to maintain the title each time. And I don't know. So I would love to know what would be the best thing. Bibu, hello there. Message retracted. Ooh, I'm not sure that. I know I didn't see that. I don't know what it was, but don't feel shy. So what we're going to do now is to say, okay, what we need to do each time in the component when we are loaded to display the task for the user, the first thing we need to do, step A, is get the task instance. Okay, so let's follow this. Yeah, perfect. Let's follow this, and it says here, and I'm going through this partly because I'm not going to pretend to remember all this, but also when you look at this, you'll remember the discussion hopefully, and hopefully it will help. I don't know. Hey Mahesh, greetings. Great to see you. Great to see you. Good morning. Good afternoon to you. Good morning. So get the task instance ID. So this thing here is the task instance ID that we looked at just before. Now remember when we did it last time, or 2 weeks ago, we talked about the fact that in the context of the whole My Inbox, you've got the master list here with the list of individual tasks assigned to me, and then when you click on the task, you get the detail. In that detail, that's where the component is loaded. Okay, and it's loaded within the context of the My Inbox app. Okay, and the component that's loaded is loaded sort of into this space here with this gray line here, and it goes down to this bit here. So our component, our custom task UI, isn't supposed to explicitly have anything in the view for the buttons down here. We've got to use the Inbox API to put buttons down here in the toolbar, right? We'll do that in a bit. First of all, what we've got to do is we've got to display something in here, right? And in order to display it, we've got to go and get the information from the task instance. So that's what this is all about, right? So to get the task ID, add the following lines to the init function. Let's just play around with these. First of all, let's copy these and put them. Let's just move this across here. We don't really need much of the UI, so that's going to sort of collapse again. It doesn't really matter. So I'm going to switch very briefly. I've just put a breakpoint here. So let's run this. Okay, also refresh it. Okay, so we hit the breakpoint and then we can start playing. Yes, Beaver. You know what? It's funny actually. I usually put it on the right as well. I put it on the left because this screen that I'm looking at right now was on this screen over here, so it was like too far over to the right because it's quite a big. This one here is quite a big monitor. So I just moved it the other, about half an hour ago, and then put this onto this monitor. So there's no big reason apart from I didn't want to bend my head too much. But you're right, yeah, it does make sense to me to have it more on the anyway. So now we're paused in the debugger, okay, and we're paused in this place here. I've just put a breakpoint saying, okay, well, this is within the init function of the component. Right, we're ready to go. So let's switch. So we've got a full screen type thing. Let's switch. We know we're here in the component. Let's switch to the console. Okay, let's get rid of those. We don't want to see those errors that much. There we go. Is that console big enough? There we go. Okay, so now let's paste those things in there. Okay, startup parameters, task model, and there's task ID, task model. So already we've got plenty of stuff. Now let's just sort of dig into what this is. This .get component data, just up here. Oh, before I forget, before we sort of hit F8 and just off we go and release the debugger, let's just capture. And I'm going to use that. We see sometimes we see this var that equals this. When you're dealing with sort of asynchronous functions and so on, and you want to capture the context of this and blah blah blah. There's lots of different ways of doing it. That equals this is a bit of a weird way, but we know what it means. So I'm going to capture in a variable called that. Usually I use the word variable DJ, but a variable called that. I'm going to capture the context of this, and this right now. Well, let's use that from now on. That.get metadata is the component. Okay, so we've got a handle now on the component. So we can get back to that if we need to. When a component is instantiated, the instantiator can give it some data, okay? And the data that that it's been given in this case by the instantiator, which is the My Inbox app, is a ton of stuff, including startup parameters. So what are these startup parameters? We saw these briefly last week, or 2 weeks ago. The startup parameters give us access to two important, well, lots of things, but two important things. The task model is already instantiated, a JSON model. I think it's a JSON model. Let's look. Startup parameters.taskModel.get metadata. Metadata. Yes, it's a JSON model. Okay, so it gives us a JSON model which points to the task itself or represents the data about the task. Andrew Barnard, why have I got a problem pronouncing your surname? I have no idea why. Message retracted. Is it? Am I doing something wrong here? Why are you retracting all these messages? It's really weird. But anyway. Sorry, where was I? Still following on. Thank you very much. Okay. Thank you. So we've got a JSON model pointing to the task data. In fact, we can see task model get data. We can see the details of that task instance, and those relate directly, effectively, to what we saw before. We've got the status, which is ready. We've got the priority, which is medium. We've got the instance ID. Remember, that's 8ACB. It would be helpful if we open up a new window. Excuse me, a new window. Oh, a spelling mistake. Okay, and look at the instance. There it is. And go and look at the, task. There we go. So the instance ID of the task is 8ACB. Recipients is there, created up there, etc. Medium, ready, test. That's all the stuff that we're seeing here, okay, which is great. So we've got the task stuff. What else did we get? What did we do? We got the task. We got the task model. And we got the task ID, right? So it's inside of the data. So the task ID is part of the data there. So there it is. Where is it? Instance ID. Okay. So within a given workflow task, there's two lumps of data that we might want to display in the custom task UI. We might want to display data from the actual sort of more, let's call it the more mechanical, hardcore task instance data itself, which is this, right? So we've got all this stuff now, but we might also, well, most likely want to display information from the context of the task. Remember, the context of the task is basically this stuff here, the context that, lives within the context, the data that lives within the context of the workflow instance itself. Okay, a workflow instance with context, and you've got one or more task instances related to that workflow instance, and they've all got access to the workflow context. Okay, so we need to be able to get that in a minute as well. So is this all making sense, by the way? Okay. Thank you. Your parents disagree on how to say your family name. Your parents disagree, reflecting their different English origins. Okay, so I feel somewhat okay then. Oscillating between Bernard and Barnard. Barnard Star. That was in Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, wasn't it? Barnard Star. Anyway, oh my God, is this coffee really strong, or is it not strong enough? I'm not sure. Going over here, and there we go. Right, fine. So what else do we need to do? What else have we got? What else do we need to do? We've got the task ID, we've got the task model, and we've got the startup parameters, which will give us access to the inbox API as well, which we saw, right? Let's have a quick look. Startup parameters.inbox API. There, the inbox API has got functions. You can see that little F thing there with the brackets, functions, that will give us the ability to add an action which will appear at the bottom here. Okay, and so on. So what's the next thing we have to do? So far so good. Go to the next. Read the task context data. Okay, blah, 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 blah. Basically what this is telling us is that you need to go and get the context. If we look at the API Business Hub, api.sap.com, if we have a look, can we log on there? I can't. Come on, come on, come on. Obviously not. Let's go to workflow. Workflow API for Cloud Foundry. There we go. We can see, look here, task instances, task instance ID, context. So that is what we're going to do next, right? Read task context data. Basically, we need to go and construct a relative URL, right? Which includes the instance ID to go and get the data in the context of the workflow instance itself. And as you can see here, our context model, new JSON model, the app ID, BPM workflow runtime, v1 task instances, task ID, context. And also, of course, what we do is we set the default binding mode of that model to one way, so we're not inadvertently updating, that. Okay, and then also what it's sort of recommending us to do is to set that as the default model on the whole component. So it'll be obviously set on the view as well, the child of the component, which means we can do some binding. Okay. Now let's just do that bit by bit. Okay. So what, first of all, is the app ID? Well, if we have a look at, there we go. Welcome to HandsOnSAPDev. I forgot about that. If we have a look at the HTML5 list of applications, we will see the UI, this HTML5 UI5 module. There it is. There, Q macro HTML5 module. So that is the ID. Remember, we saw it in the UI5 in. Come on, DJ. In the web IDE as well. So when we looked at the workflow definition here, we saw the user interface. The app name is Q macro HTML5 module. Okay. Yes, Chesh, I think. Oh, you know what? I can't remember whether what the default binding is. I thought it could be one way. To be honest, I can't remember, Chesh. I can't remember. But I've seen circumstances that you're questioning as well, which I agree with, where I've seen it's like, why are you setting the default binding and explicitly to X, where X is the default anyway? And I've always concluded that it's more obvious. Maybe it's to make it more obvious to the person reading the code that is the default binding mode. Okay, I don't know, but yeah, you're right to sort of question that and point it out. I can't remember. If anybody can look up what the default binding mode of a model is from a JSON model perspective, let us know on the chat. I can't remember. It's been a long time since I've done the UI5. So Mahesh, good question. Is BPM workflow runtime, is that not an OData service? So BPM workflow, that's a really good question. So BPM workflow runtime, let's go back to where, Mahesh, I guess you're seeing that here. BPM workflow runtime, okay, what is that? Well, first of all, we're getting onto that now. So BPM workflow runtime, where are we? So there is our app ID. And if we have a look at the XS app.json, which has also been defined, I've added, right, because it tells us to, I've added already a root in the XS app.json, which is the equivalent of the Neo version of the Neo app.json, right? I've added a root to say, basically, when a request comes in, right, to anything beginning or anything prefixed with BPM workflow runtime, then send it to the BPM workflow service, right? And in this case, right, there's the workflow REST URL. Now, so if we have a look, where are we? This is a really good question. So questions are great. If we like cockpit, go log in the cockpit, let's have a look at the workflow instance that I have in here. Okay, so there's the workflow instance. I was lucky that went straight there. That's pretty cool, that URL. And if we have a look at the context here, we'll see that the workflow REST URL, that's the thing that's being referred to here, workflow REST URL endpoint, right? And the service com SAP BPM workflow, that is effectively that thing there. Now to your question, Mahesh. John, yeah, okay. The default binding is two-way on JSON. Okay. Oh, maybe yes, I remember now. Maybe the default binding for resource models is one way. Could be. There we go, John. You just said it as I was saying it as well. Good work. Resource models definitely one way. Doesn't make any sense having two way. And OData models default to one way. That's brilliant. Thank you, John. Superstar. So going back to Mahesh's question, is BPM workflow runtime not an OData service? Behind the prefix, which we could call anything, right? We could call it banana, right? Because all we're doing is we're just mapping that to the endpoint. But in the mapping specifically, we're mapping it specifically to the workflow REST URL endpoint, which is this one, which is this one, workflow service REST, which is the thing that we're looking at here. Okay, workflow service REST. Now there is somewhere, where is it? What I want to look for? Here we go. If we look at the difference between the icons here, that means that's an actual API, and that's like an API family. Package. There we go, package. So when we clicked on that, we looked at the REST API. But in fact, as you can see here, in the API package, there's the inbox API for Cloud Foundry, and there's the workflow API for Cloud Foundry, both within the context of the workflow API package family, right? The inbox API is this OData API, which is this one. Let's have a look at the sort of thing you can do, right? Task collection, right? Task collection and task collection definition, and all these different things. Task definition, task collection. Go and get all these different things here with the SAP origin and so on, which is always NA, well, not nearly always NA. So that thing there, the way we've defined it, to answer your question, is it points to the REST API endpoint, which is this one. Okay, which is the reason why when we're in here we don't need to instantiate an OData model to go and get the task data, because that's already been done for us with the, there's the task model there, but it's actually grabbed it for some reason as a JSON model. Okay, so Mahesh, does that answer your question? That was a great question. I don't think it was a good answer, but let me know if that makes sense. There's the workflow OData URL, and if you see there, the prefix, the API prefix is workflow service OData, and the API prefix of that one is workflow service REST, and we're going to be using the workflow service REST one. So let's now move on and say, because what we want to do is do this basically. We want to instantiate a JSON model, and we want to get the information for the task instance. So there we go, get task instances, task instance context. So that's the one we're going to do, right? Thank you, Mahesh. Right, okay, so if let's say the model equals new sap.ui.model.json model, not JSON list binding, JSON model. Now, it's going to be qmacro HTML5 module, isn't it? Yep, qmacro HTML5 module is the app ID, and then BPM workflow runtime, which is basically this thing, BPM workflow runtime. And now that gives us access to, gives us a handle on the actual workflow API itself, which is /v1 task instances, or whatever we want to call it, because in the context of this thing here, we're already pointing to the workflow REST URL, which is, which already has this bit on it. Okay, so we're just constructing this sort of relative path. So now we want to say v1, what was it called again? V1, that's task instances, task instances, and then see this is the really nice thing about I can't remember what they call it, like with the backticks in the strings in JavaScript. I can't remember. My brain's completely gone blank. What are these called? Not string literals, interpreted literals, or whatever. So we can start putting variables in, like task model. Oh, task ID. What's our task ID? Let's just get rid of that for a second. Task ID. Oh, yeah, it is the task ID, right? Task ID. Okay. So we go task ID. Then we want context. Okay. So let's go across to network and get rid of everything, so we can see everything else that comes along after that is, as a result of what we're doing. And hit enter. Okay. So we get a model. The model. Now the model doesn't have any data because the request is still pending. Okay, there it is. There's the request. And as you can see, it's sort of resolved into that whole absolute URL there, which is really nice. But it's still pending. Okay, so why don't we hit F8? Is there anything else we need to latch onto? I don't think so, because we've got access to, oh yes, no, I think we've got access to everything we want. We've got that. Yeah, I think we can let go, can't we? Okay, let's let go. Let's go into the network panel, let go, and see what happens. String templates, Tiago. See, I knew I would coax you out of the silence. And Tiago, welcome. It's great to see you. String templates. Brilliant. Okay, so let's go. Pause and debugger, go. So we get the context. Okay, there it is. And as you can see there, that's the context. There's data, Hamlet, paperback, author, blah, blah, blah. And also, as you can see here, it's also, I've been talking so long, right, that it's failed. So let's just run that again quickly. Oops. Let's just refresh that whole thing. And that's the thing you see. This is the thing you see when it can't properly load. Okay, so it's given up trying to load because I've been talking so long in debug mode, in pause mode, and it's like, wow, whatever. What are you doing? Okay, so let's do that again really quickly. Console. Oh, let's grab that equals this first of all. Equals this, and also let's go up and grab that stuff. I think that's all we had. Oh, we also did the model, didn't we? Yeah, of course. The model. And now let's go. Let's let go. There's network. Let's get rid of that network here. And go. Okay, fine. I'm not sure what's going on there. Hey, great to see you too. Yes, great to see you. So we got this thing here. Component preload. That's fine. What's going on here? Oh, yeah. View one controller, Q macro base 5. Is it perfect? What's going on here? Why have we got that? That's interesting. I'm not expecting that. So what have we got here? Anyway, before we do anything else, the model get data. We get the data. Okay. Models.create device model is not a function. Okay, we can deal with that in a second. I have no idea what that is, but we can deal with that in a second. So now we've got the task model dot get data. This is like the perils of doing things sort of live in a live running browser in the background, sort of behind the scenes type thing. So we've got the data relating to the task instance, and we've got the model data relating to the context. Okay, so we've now got all this data that we can start to sort of put on the screen, but I'm not sure what's going on with this weird thing. Let's just refresh that again. Let's just do that again. Okay, well, look, what's going on here? Let's just move this here. Set models.create device model. Fine. Okay. Let's just bring up the drawer here. We don't need any of that. I can't get rid of that. What am I doing? Yep, there we go. That equals this. And that, actually, let's just let that run through to completion now. There we go. Okay, fine. There was some sort of weird timing issue, I think. So now we can do this whole, grab this thing here. There we go, starter parameters. Oh, there we go. We don't need this. We need that now, don't we? That startup parameter. There we go. So we're okay now. Fine. So we've now got the task model, and we will also have the model.getData. Okay, one more go, one more refresh. Come on. There we go, that'll do for now. We'll do that, we'll do that, we'll do that. That equals this. Grab that thing there. Come on, and go F8. I'm not sure what. Am I clobbering something here? The model. What am I doing wrong here? Sources. This set model, models create device model. And what does that do? Is cannot create showing standard testing data. Models.create device model is not a function. So is it not loaded? Ah, maybe it's not loaded the models yet. Sources. Let's have a look at the sources. Create device model. It's there. Oh, unless it wasn't loaded at the time. Okay, that's interesting. Okay, well, we'll just do that. Okay, let's do it one more time. Okay, this. Well, let's. Has it loaded that now? Models. Yeah. Okay. Fine. Let's just. Where is it? Where is it? Let's just step over that next function call. Okay. Fine. Now we'll do that. So we've now. That equals this, and the model, and go. There we go. There we go. There we go. Maybe I should have, yeah, I've no idea why that was happening. I suspect it was a timing thing. So we now allowed it to be called, and it's been called, and we're good. How are you loading the models file? It's being loaded automatically, I think, John. This is just a default UI5 thing here. Let's have a look. Component.js. There we go. It's there. It's being loaded, and this was like generated from file new HTML5 module basic SAP UI5 app. There we go, and that's what you get. And so the models there is being loaded in this normal defined way from here. QMacro, so if I want the models, which is there. Okay, so that's where it is there. Okay. So I think we're good. I think it was just a timing thing that I should have let that happen before I did anything else. So we're now in the state where we've got the task ID and we've got the task model .get data and so on. And we've also got, have we got the model .data? Sorry, not .data, get data. Okay, so that's perfect. So now let's start to think about, in the last 5 minutes, I can't believe it, in the last 5 minutes, how we get this sort of stuff on the screen. Well, basically, it's pretty straightforward, right? If we have a look at the source here, we can see, I'm going to just do, a real sort of hardcore way of getting this. I can't be bothered. Let's just have that ID, okay, and say page equals I'm in debug mode, right? So nobody kill me for using get core by ID. There we go. So now I've got the page, and we can say here, for example, let's say we want to display, I don't know, what have we got here? We got the get data. So we can say object.keys, model.get data. We've got those keys there. Yeah, for each. Yeah, there we go, for each. We've got that, and we'll say here, page.add content, new SAP m.standard. Standard list item was always my favorite. Standard list item. Bind property. Let's do some proper binding as well. It's got a title property, hasn't it? Title to to X actually. Let's use the what's it called again? Tiago, string template. Let's use the string template. Bind it to title, bind property. Bind property. Oh yes, okay. So so we've got, I don't know how many, 5 or 6, 7 things there. But what I haven't done, of course, is set in the sort of multiple refreshes and everything. I don't think I've set the model, have I, on the component? So that dot set model, the model. There we go. Ha ha! So that's good. So now we can sort of imagine, okay, we're bringing data from the workflow instance context. We could also, for example, bring something from the task model as well. So why don't we say, page.add content. Let's just have another new sap.m.standard list item, and let's bind it to I have no idea what I'm doing here. The task model. Let's just copy that. Task model.get data. What have we got in there? Get data. Task title. There we go. Let's bring the task title in, not from the context, but from the task instance data, right? So let's do that. Paste that in. Task title. Now, of course, we haven't bound the task model onto the thing yet either, so we'll do that now. And now we'll say that dot set model task model as task. There we go. So we've now got some data from the context, and we've got some data from the task itself. Okay, we could have the priority or whatever, right? The final thing we'll do before we finish for this session is we'll just have a quick look, startup parameters.inbox API. We'll have a quick look to see what we can do with the, where's the documentation? Well, I think we've just gone a little bit off piece, haven't we? But what we can do with, where are we? Next. No, okay, yeah, blah, 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 bind some stuff. Add custom action buttons. There we go. Add custom action buttons. So that's what you'll come to that as well. But basically, let's use that. Let's just do that. Let's paste it. Cut and paste. There we go. Bang. There we go. Starter parameters, inbox API, add action. Action is reject. Label is reject. That's the text thing. And it's got a callback that will call this function called complete task, which we haven't got yet. But there it is. There's reject. We can also, thank you, Mash. Yeah, we can also, I think, put some sort of severity as well. How do you, approve? I can't remember how to do it. Type. Yes, type. Let's add that one. Let's do an accept. And if we have type accept or positive for positive appearance. Sounds like an advert for soap. There we go. There. So the type accept is that thing there. Inspect. That's the approve button. Button 6. Button 6. Okay. So let's just have a play. sap.ui.getCore by ID. Button 6. Yes, I know I shouldn't be doing. Set type reject. No, not type. Reject. What are the types? What are the types? I have no idea. Accept. What were the other things? Type. Accept or positive. Reject. Reject. Set type. Reject. I don't know. I thought you could set the type. Unless that's sort of translated in the API call. I don't know. Get. What do we do? Get type. Accept. Oh, I know why. Capital R. Reject. There we go. And we can change it to like a red reject or red approve in this case. Anyway, so we've got everything we need from a UI5 perspective, from a component perspective, to be able to sort of get the data from the task, get the data from the context, put some data on the screen, manipulate the buttons on the bottom, and then obviously what we've not done yet is do the call. When we do the call, click the thing, we want to update the task to say whether it's complete or whatever. And we also maybe want to update the context as well, to put some data in the context. So we'll do that next week, and we'll do all that in the Web IDE, because we've now explored enough here. Hopefully, you got a better feel close to the thing that's going on inside the My Inbox context of this UI5 component. So there we go. Have a great rest of Friday. Have a great weekend. I'm off today. I'm off this weekend, and I'm off on Monday as well, because it's a bank holiday in the UK. And I just realised that I brought some chocolate for myself, but I'm not even eating it, so I'm going to eat it now. There we go. And thank you very much, and goodbye for now. Bye, 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 bye.